Chapter 10. Preparing for the fray. The next few days were indeed bussy for Ethel and Bernard. First of all, Ethel got some dainty pink note paper with silver crest on it and sent out invitations in the following terms to all their friends.
Miss Ethel Montague will be married to Mr. Bernard Clark at Westminster Abbey on June 10th. Your company is requested there at 2:30 sharp and afterwards for refreshment at the Gaiety Hotel. RSVP.
Having posted heaps of these and got several replies, Ethel began to order her wedding dress, which cost a good bit. She chose a rich satin with a humped pattern of gold on the pure white, and it had long train edged with aerium lilies. Her veil was of pure lace with a crown of orange blossom. Her bouquet she ordered to be of white dog daisies, St. Joseph lilies, and orange blossoms tied up with pale blue satin ribbon. "You will indeed be a charming spectacle, my darling," gasped Bernard as they left the shop. Then they drove to the tailor, where Bernard ordered an elegant black suit with coattails lined with crimson satin and a pale lavender tie and an opera hat of the same hue, and he intended to wear violets in his buttonholes, also his best white spats, diamond studs, and a few extras of costly hair. They both ordered a lot of new clothes besides, and Bernard gave Ethel a very huge tiara made of rubies and diamonds. Also 2 rich bracelets, and Ethel gave him a brand new trunk of shiny green leather. The Earl of Clincham sent a charming gift of some hem-stitched sheets edged with real lace and a photo of himself in a striking attitude. Mr. Saltina sent Ethel a Bible with a few pious words of advice and regret. And he sent Bernard a very handy little camp stool. Ethel's parents were too poor to come so far, but her mother sent her a gold watch, which did not go, but had been some years in the family. And her father provided a check for £2 and promised to send her a darling little baby calf when ready. Oh no. Then they ordered the most splendid refreshments they had, tea and coffee and sparkling wines to drink, also a lovely wedding cake of great height with a sugar angel at the top holding a sword made of almond paste. They had countless cakes besides, also ices, jelly, meringues, jam tarts with plenty of jam on each, some cold tongue, some ham with salad and a pig's head done up in a wondrous manner. Ethel could hardly contain herself as she gazed at the sumptuous repast, and Bernard gave her a glass of rich wine while he imbibed some whiskey before going to bed. Ethel got speedily into her bed for the last time at the dear old Gaiety, and shed a few salt tears thinking of her past life. But she quickly cheered up and began to plan about how many children she would have. "I hope I shall have a good lot," she thought to herself, and so saying, fell into repose. Chapter 11. The Wedding. The Abbey was indeed thronged next day when Ethel and Bernard cantered up in a very fine carriage, drawn by 2 prancing steeds who foamed a good deal. In the porch stood several clean altar boys who conducted the lucky pair up the aisle, while the organ pealed a merry blast. The mighty edifice was packed, and seated in the front row was the Earl of Clincham, looking very brisk, as he was going to give Ethel away at the correct moment. Beside him sat Mr. Saltina, all in black and looking bitterly sad, and he ground his teeth as Ethel came marching up. There were some merry hymns, and as soon as Ethel and Bernard were won, the clergyman began a sermon about Adam and Eve and the serpent. And Mr. Saltina cried into his large handkerchief, and the Earl kept on nudging him as his sniffs were rather loud. Then the wedding march pealed forth, and down the church stepped Ethel and Bernard as husband and wife. Into the cab they got, and speedily dashed off to the Gaiety. The wedding refreshments were indeed a treat to all, and even Mr. Saltina cheered up when he beheld the wedding cake and sparkling wines. Then the Earl got up and made a very fine speech about marriage vows and bliss, and he quoted several good bits from the Bible, which got a lot of applause. Bernard replied in good round terms. "I thank your lordship for those kind remarks," he said in clear tones. "I expect we shall be as happy as a lark, and I hope you will all be ditto some day." "Hear, hear!" muttered a stray lady in the crowd, and down sat Bernard, while Ethel went up to change her wedding garment for a choice pink velvet dress with a golden girdle and a very chic toque. Bernard also put on a new suit of blue stripe and some silk socks and clean underclothing. "Hurrah! Hurrah!" shouted the guests as the pair reappeared in the aforesaid get-ups. Then everybody got a bag of rice and sprinkled on the pair, and Mr. Saltina sadly threw a white tennis shoe at them, wiping his eyes the while. Off drove the happy pair, and the guests finished up the food. The happy pair went to Egypt for their honeymoon, as they thought it would be a nice warm spot and they had never seen the wondrous land. Ethel was a bit sick on the boat, but Bernard braved the storm in manly style. However, Ethel had recovered by the time they got to Egypt, and here we will leave them for a merry 6 weeks of bliss while we return to England. Chapter 12. How it ended. Mr. Saltina, by the aid of the Earl and the kindness of the Prince of Wales, managed to get the job his soul craved, and any day might be seen in Hyde Park or Piccadilly, galloping madly after the royal carriage in a smart suit of green velvet with knickerbockers complete. At first he was rather terrified, as he was not used to riding, and he found his horse bumped him a good deal, and he had to cling on desperately to its flowing mane. At other times the horse would stop dead, and Mr. Saltino would use his spurs and bad language with no avail. But he soon got more used to his fresh and sultry steed, and his Royal Highness seemed satisfied. The Earl continued his merry life at the compartments till finally he fell in love with one of the noble ladies who haunted them. She was not so pretty as Ethel, and she had rather a bulgy figure and brown eyes, but she had lovely raven tresses, a pointed nose, and a rose-like complexion of a dainty hue. She had very nice feet, and plenty of money. Her name was called Lady Helena Herring, and her age was 25, and she mated well with the Earl. Mr. Saltina grew very lonely after the Earl was married, and he could not bear a single life any more. So failing Ethel, he married one of the maids-in-waiting at Buckingham Palace, by name Bessie Top, a pleasant girl of 18, with a round red face and rather starry eyes. So now that all our friends are married, I will add a few words about their families. Ethel and Bernard returned from their honeymoon with a son and heir, a nice fat baby called Ignatius Bernard. They soon had 6 more children, 4 boys and 3 girls, and some of them were twins, which was very exciting. The Earl only got 2 rather sickly girls called Helen and Marie, because the last one looked slightly French. Mr. Saltina had a large family of 10, 5 of each, but he grew very morose as the years rolled by, and his little cottage was very noisy, and his wife was a bit annoying at times, especially when he took to dreaming of Ethel, and wishing he could have married her. Still, he was a pious man in his way, and found relief in prayer. Bernard Clark was the happiest of our friends, as he loved Ethel to the bitter end, and so did she him, and they had a nice house, too. The Earl soon got tired of his sickly daughters, and his wife had a savage temper, so he thought he would divorce her and try again, but he gave up the idea after several attempts, and decided to offer it up as a mortification. So now, my readers, we will say farewell to the characters in this book. The End, by Daisy Ashford.